Rolling on the right side, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up next, In God We Trust will remain on our currency. The Supreme Court has declined an atheist challenge, good for the Supreme Court. Also in God We Trust, the city of Bakersfield, California will now have that on their police vehicles, and should that be on every police vehicle? We'll talk about those issues and more. Pro-Life will get to you first. Our great friend Dan Perkins joins us from Florida. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio, Dan. Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Not bad. So yesterday, it seems like yesterday, or it seems like it just never ends, the Democrats continue again and again and again to want to go over the Mueller report as if they get a do-over. It's not like this is the NBA Finals where you get to replay a game. Once the game happens, game over, except in the world of Jerry Nadler, Nancy Pelosi, and the devious little libs.
It's amazing to me that the Democrats will accept the word and bring forward convicted felons and individuals who have obstructed justice and give them any credibility before. And what has it been, 40 years since he was relevant? I mean, what's the point? As Rush said yesterday, well, if you're going to bring in John Dean, how about we bring in Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford, followed by we could do the movie All the President's Men, or we could bring in Woodward and Bernstein and sell popcorn. I mean, they just don't seem to understand that, as you said, Kevin, the game's over. But I suspect that all of this is distraction because they're trying to discredit what's going to come from Horowitz and the other investigators who are going to be releasing things. Horowitz probably by the end of the month or so, and then the guy from Connecticut and the guy from Utah, and then the Attorney General. They've got to do something. And the far left agenda is not going well with the voters. And surprisingly, over the weekend, Uncle Joe, who was the presumptive nominee by the media, seems to his losing ground. He's done so many flip-flops and has the same kind of speech issue that Nancy Pelosi has, although not quite as bad as Nancy. People begin to wonder about his viability as a presidential candidate.
Well, we could go on and on about the 2020s, and we'll get to that. But, Donald Trump said something very interesting concerning John Dean. And Dan Perkins with us on KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get your reaction to this. Dan, check this out.
John Dean's been a loser for many years, so I've been watching him on one of the networks that is not exactly Trump-oriented, and I guess they paid him a lot of money over the years. No, John's been a loser for a long time. We know that. I think he was disbarred, and he went to prison. Other than that, he's doing a great job.
Now, we go back to Watergate, and you have all these millennials saying, well, this is worse. This is the same thing that 3 weeks ago couldn't even spell Watergate.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing that the Democrats are trying to put this in the same vein of Watergate when nothing could be more opposite. The Nixon administration was incredibly closed, didn't share anything. The Trump administration has shared 1.5 million documents, taken 500 witnesses before the prosecutors. Been very open and transparent, and so it's not anywhere near a relative comparison. But what the president said about Dean is true. I watched those Watergate hearings, and I watched as the country was going through the turmoil of trying to decide whether they were going to impeach the president. And Kevin, that's a very important distinction, because when this was taking place, the American people basically lost confidence in their president and his ability to function, and that he was hunkering down, he was being defensive, he may have been misleading or lied to the American people. That's not the case with Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi said early on, we have to have three things happen in order to be able to consider impeaching Donald Trump. One is the evidence, two, the votes in the Congress. But most important is the votes of the people. And the people are saying that Mr. Trump is getting close to a 50% approval rating. He's higher than Barack Obama for the same period of time. So without the American people's support for an impeachment, it really goes nowhere. And and the fear for Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer will be realized. The American people will, in fact, revolt against the Democrats. I thought it was amazing. There's a story that came out this morning, and you may have seen it, Kevin, where they're already picking. There's a group of what they call dark money people who are already picking the judges that the new Democratic president will appoint after 2020.
Boy, that is crazy.
Yeah. So, but I think if the American people are not behind an impeachment of Donald Trump by showing their support or lack thereof for what he's trying to do, and the Democrats got smacked again over the Mexico situation. The president, Kevin, this is a very important example for the millennials. For the longest time that I'm 74, or will be 74 next month. For the longest time, I always believed in my lifetime that if anything got done, it's going to take a long time. Treaties took a long time to negotiate. Look how long we negotiated with Iran on the nuclear program. But I see what Donald Trump has done and said, wait a minute, we don't have to take years or decades to come up with a treaty. And the recent example of Mexico and the other example of Mexico and Canada, what's happening in Europe, what happened in South Korea and Japan, these things are settling rapidly. I do believe that China will come to the table because the economic numbers, the actual numbers of what's going on in their economy are terrible. And the president said so, but forget about what he's saying. Other people outside the administration are saying that companies are looking to move out of China. They don't want to pay the tariffs. And so I think that his policies, along with trade, are going to create another wave of expansion in the U.S. economy because I think that it's important to understand that when Mr. Trump is talking to the Chinese, while he's talking about America, he's also talking about the rest of the world. What I mean, Kevin, the only industrialized nation in the world that has a trade surplus or slight surplus in trading with China is Japan. Everybody else in the world who trades with Japan or trades with China has a significant trade deficit. And so that what Mr. Trump is doing is trying to reset the stage for America, but reset the stage because if he's successful and he is the biggest trading partner, you can sure well bet the rest of them are going to come in right behind him and say, we want what he's got. And so the trade situation is going to change economic growth in the United States more dramatically than perhaps anywhere else in the world. But it will change the rest of the world, too.
Our great friend Dan Perkins with us. Dan, if people want to get a hold of you, what can they do?
DanPerkins.guru is my general website. There's a link there to Songs and Stories for Soldiers. If I could just take a moment. We have here in Florida what is called the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. And this is an agency of the Florida state government. It's not funded by the federal government. It's funded by the local government. And they have 7 nursing homes in the state of Florida that are specifically dedicated to veterans who are suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's. Those 7 facilities house about 1,000 veterans. And a year ago, we did a pilot with Songs and Stories in one of their facilities. And we did a year-long pilot, and the results came in late January. And they called me up to Tampa to sit down and talk with them, and they said that the reporting that we got from the patients and from the nursing staff were just so amazing as in having an impact on the quality of the lives of these patients. they wanted to know if we could go to all 7 facilities. And I said, we've never taken on anything this large to try and deliver 1,000 players at one time to one institution, but we'll try. So on the 19th of May, we had a golf outing. We needed to raise $10,000, and we raised $11,000. So in one fell swoop, we're going to have an impact on the lives of over 1,000 veterans because of the results of that golf outing. And so we're thrilled with the community supported. We had people from all over the country were buying memorial signs for veterans and their families. I mean, California and Texas and Georgia and Ohio and the District of Columbia and Washington, D.C., and Virginia and New York, Michigan. People all over the country were sending in their names of their veterans and their $100 checks. So it was just a wonderful thing that the American people did, and we changed the lives of 1,000 soldiers at one time.
Dan Perkins, we appreciate you. You keep up the great work.
Thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Look forward to my next visit.
Yes, sir. Dan Perkins joining us. Pro-Life joins us now. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro-Life.
Yeah, Liberty Lynn is always right about the border. The real solution is to put people all the way from Brownsville, Texas, all the way to San Diego, not have any place where there's not people, and then just throw them back across the border. And if nobody can cross, it'll get you won't have to discipline Mexico. They won't want those people hanging around the border because nobody will come up there. Well, they might come up there, but, it's not – people have – the Central Americans believe that they can get in here. And if you just close the border down with people, then nobody could get in here. The word would go out. It'd stop real fast. You wouldn't have to build a wall immediately, but, of course, you need a wall. But anyway, I can't see why those senators back east have anything to do with rest homes in Idaho. What's the constitutional
Well, the issue here, and by the way, for people just tuning in, earlier we were talking about the report of 400 nursing facilities across the country, a report constructed by Senators Toomey and Casey of Pennsylvania, and you had 2 of them, one of them in Caldwell, that was mentioned. And my story is, and we had somebody actually who works in the facility call in and say, Kevin, we're doing our very best. And again, very relevant point the gentleman made to me, innocent until proven guilty. On the other hand, there is an issue of trust here when you have people that are going into these facilities that their loved ones are taken care of. And people are saying, well, we're just getting we're just getting in there and we're going to do this, that, and the other. The time is of the essence. A sense of urgency one must have.
No, I agree. But the senators from Pennsylvania, they could destroy somebody's business out here, like the Cascadia business. Now, somebody from the state government that has to do with rest homes, they need to come on your program and. Well,
here's the other one though. Does it take somebody from Washington D.C. working with Medicare and Medicaid to do these audits, to have these reports, or where's the state of Idaho when it comes to nursing home oversight?
Right. They need to step up right now. Call the Kevin Miller Show.
Oh, they can call regardless, but where is their status of nursing homes in Idaho?
Yeah, I agree.
How safe are these facilities? That's not out of line to ask a question, is it?
Nope, it isn't.
Yeah.
Well, hey, the Kevin Miller Show is the best.
I bet you say that to all the boys.
No, I don't. I don't say the other ones. I don't tell them they're the best because they're not.
Hey, are you ready for the gay parade this week?
Yeah, I am.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got my courage up. I'm going to go down there and I need other people to come with us. Arvell and I, we need somebody else. You need to come down there. It's a hoot.
Well, I had somebody, at the office say that they can't believe that my car has not been egged and I haven't been threatened because we have an open discussion about whether or not there should be a rainbow on the Capitol. And instead of talking about tolerance, this is exclusionary. This whole thing is exclusionary if you disagree with the Pride folks.
Yeah, I know. And Governor Little, he's the one that needs to just say no more lights on. You can't broadcast across the street onto the Capitol.
You want a ban on everybody.
No.
That's kind of what the state tried to do. And then the you can thank Albertsons. You can thank, what is it, the farm,
Wells Fargo Bank.
the farm, Wells Fargo. I don't know about Wells Fargo. I know Albertsons was listed in the in the news story, and you can thank the place out of Huntington where they sell the weed.
Yeah, I know. That's ridiculous. They want the gays to come over there, get some weed, and bring it back over here and party. That's pretty sick. So anyway, no, we just need to follow Jesus Christ.
Well, they're not allowed. The gays aren't allowed to party, is what you're saying?
No. The marijuana shop over there at Huntington, they want the gays to come over there and not party over there, just buy their stuff there and then, sneak it over here and
well, that is a question. Out of this public gathering or any, how many people are going to be smoking weed?
Probably a lot.
Yeah. Pro-life?
Especially gays. They don't have they've lost their conscience, and they need
let's not go too far on that because you need the gay police to protect you. You don't want to be insulting people.
No, I want them to repent. I love them enough to go down there.
You love them, but then you just insulted them. Which is it?
No, they need to be
tainted
insulted.
Love.
I mean, if you're wrong, you need to be told you're wrong.
Oh, I get that a lot, pro-life. Thank you.
All right, see ya.
See ya. More coming up next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. We go to Diane in Boise with Kevin Miller. Diane, good morning.
Hey, Kevin, how are you this morning?
I am living the dream, ma'am, and you?
I'm pretty awesome, Sauce. Hey, I wanted to comment on the nursing home situation, and I think even though it's turned into a national kind of spotlight, it's also a really local issue. My dad was in a nursing home down in Mountain Home, and I made it a point to get to know all of the staff. It wasn't a real big facility. I made it a point to get to know a lot of the people that were there and found out which ones maybe didn't have family, and I would check in on them too. So the nursing home kind of knew they had a busybody who was going to be, looking into everybody and making sure everybody was held accountable. And I think that's part of it. We just need to let them know, we're here for our family, but we're here for other families too. So, everybody just kind of do what you're supposed to do.
Well, and you've heard, Diane, of the horror stories where elder people are abused, they're neglected, and for people just tuning in, or last hour we were talking about the issue involving this Senate report, 400 nursing homes named, 2 of them in Idaho, the one in Caldwell being cited, and then you have the person in Caldwell saying, we just took this over. I don't think family members want to hear that. Family members want to hear my loved one is being taken care of to the utmost degree.
Well, you have to check on them, and you have to let people know that you are checking on them. And I mean, maybe that makes the staff uncomfortable, but people certainly knew that there was somebody that was going to say, hey, old Betty over there's got a shiner. Why don't you let me know what happened, or I'll have to ask somebody else to find out what happened. So, you just kind of got to go in there and let people know you're taking care of people, and we are vigilantly watching you do it.
Well, and they should welcome that. The staff should the staff should welcome it. Yeah. No,
they didn't, but they knew that there was somebody there. So I think it just you just have to take care of your elders the way you take care of your little kids.
I agree. I will tell you. That hits close to home to so many people that have had people, whether it's peers, whether it's elder people that have been in these facilities. It just breaks your heart.
It does. And that's why it's incumbent on any of us who have people that are there, who are local, who can check in. Don't just check in with your parents. Check in with everybody. Try and be a good a good kid to more than just your parents. It does help.
Diane, appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. And I'm Kevin Miller. Keep it here. Stay informed. KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie. Thank you so much for joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Here's the latest from the Mueller files. The Department of Justice has agreed to hand over key evidence on President Trump's possible obstruction of justice and abuse of power According to the ever-objective New York Times, of course, those things don't exist. It isn't clear what exactly will be turned over. The announcement came amid continued threats by Jerry Nadler, the House Judiciary Chairman, to hold the Attorney General in contempt. On Monday, John Dean, former White House counsel of the Nixon administration, testified. By the way, if you missed that, we'll have that for you coming up very soon. Very heated. And by the way, we will, again, for your entertainment purposes only, we'll get your thoughts on this. Why in the world do they continue to bring this up again and again and again when we're talking about Watergate and everything else? Got very heated in that committee room hearing. Other news of the day, well, how about this one? California to be the first state to pay for health benefits of illegal aliens. That's right. Forget the dreamers. Forget everything else. I guess we could call this the thank goodness that we live in Idaho segment with Kevin Miller. So on one hand, we have California to be the first state to pay for health benefits for some living in the country illegally. And then on the other spectrum, you get the state of Alabama approving chemical castration for sex abusers of children. And you have to wonder, where does Idaho fit into all this? But coming up, we're going to review the testimony with John Dean and back to whether or not we should trust nursing home facilities in light of the report by the Senate saying that we have issues with over 400 facilities across the country. A big setup in Iowa with a preview is our friend Jeff Manasso. Jeff, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
Good to have you with us, Jeff Manasso, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. So Iowa gets center stage. Two big heavyweights coming in.
Yeah, so President Trump heads to Council Bluffs on the west side, the very red side of Iowa, where he'll tour a renewable energy facility today and deliver remarks that focus on the finalization and implementation of the year-round E15 rule and approval of year-round access to gasoline with higher blends of ethanol. The president will also discuss the administration's accomplishments for American farmers, and the president will travel then to West Des Moines a little bit later on for a fundraiser for the Republican Party of Iowa. Joe Biden also spending a couple of days in Iowa on the eastern side of the state today, kind of more the blue, more blue collar, more union shop type of Democratic voter. John Deere is there in near Des Moines and other places. But I think tomorrow is going to be the headlines tomorrow will be what Trump said about Biden, what Biden said about Trump. I would just caution you to maybe just pick up a book and disregard, because none of this really matters this far out from the election.
Right. But Iowa continues to get a lot of attention over the weekend. You had, 19 of the 20-some candidates for a little forum there, I believe, in Cedar Rapids. So Iowa, New Hampshire, some other states getting some attention. It's fascinating, though. People are already calling for these guys and gals to step out and run for Senate, Jeff, because they're not going anywhere, and yet the caucuses and primaries are quite a ways off.
I mean, Iowa is first out of the gate for the political cycle, and so I think it's important for these candidates, the 275,000 of them who are running, to try and gain a little bit of traction in Iowa. And but we've talked about this before too, Kevin, on the campaign trail in 2016, whether it was Iowa or Boise, in your neck of the woods in Idaho and South Carolina, Florida, Arizona, any state in the union. One of the biggest concerns among voters, whether Democrat or Republican or independent, it was immigration. It was a hot topic throughout the campaign trail, and so I think it's going to be a hard sell for these candidates, whether they know it or not, to go into these states and talk immigration when you look at Congress and they've done nothing about it, and you've got a president who had to go to Mexico to get something done. So Will they get some traction out of this? I don't know. I mean, I think there are a couple of different front runners at this point. It keeps changing. Joe Biden is top of the heap, but it's so early out, and the news of the day will undoubtedly be tomorrow. What Trump said about Biden, what Biden said about Trump, and that just feeds another news cycle.
Well, we must feed the beast. Jeff Monosso, only about 90 days left till football season.
Yeah, with a new coaching staff, and a new team, a couple of new picks, and I'm excited about it.
Well, we're excited about you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Take care, sir.
I always appreciate you.
Take care. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff Monosso joining us. Let's go to Tom in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Tom.
How are you, sir?
Hello.
Hello, are you there?
You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can.
I just had a quick comment about the health care in California. I'm wondering if we took like the ICE, the Border Patrol fellows, and some National Guard, and maybe some federales and local guys here, cover Brownsville to California and turn hard right, and go all the way to Oregon, turn hard left, and then just leave the border open from there. That's what they want.
It appears to be that the way it's going.
That's not what they really want, though, right? No.
Well, what do they really want?
I don't know. I've been contemplating that. I'm wondering if half of this is a distraction from an ulterior motive,
Well, it sure would be nice to get free health care for Americans.
It would. Especially those that have lost so much,
You're right. Of course, here, and it's funny. You take a look at how we treat veterans, and I believe I'm trying to remember, it was Rick Barry, a Hall of Fame basketball player, who said we should be treating our veterans like we treat the illegals. Think about that.
Poetic.
And it is. Tom, thank you for the call. But on a more serious nature, folks, think about this. We have wonderful men and women that have served our nation. And some of them come back with life-altering injuries, both internal and external. And what have we heard about the state of the VA? Could be a lot better. So when the devious little libs, and all you devious little libs that are plotting to destroy this program and get rid of the conservative voice of the Treasure Valley, the next time you're dealing with a devious little lib and they're saying, well, Trump is evil, he's locking people up, he's separating families. Okay. What about the people that served in Kandahar, in Korea, on submarines? Did we give them free health care when they came back? Some, yes. Others, not the best health care. Right? Under Obama. Thank you, Obama. Thank you for the hose job. But really, what President Trump and people say, being a nationalist is a bad thing. It's about white supremacy. Heck, holding up three fingers is about white supremacy, yet everybody in the NBA does the same sign. I don't think that when they hit a 3, they're talking about white supremacy. It's ridiculous how politically correct things can get. The other night, you had people cheering when Kevin Durant went down, and they go, oh, that's horrible. Wasn't it just years ago that you had these playoffs between the Lakers and the Celtics and the Bulls and the Lakers, and people would cheer, and people were, that's the idea of it. You can't, if you dish it out, you got to take it. My point being, at 580-5436, it's absurd what's going on in California. If you've left California, you're going, see, Kevin Miller, that's why I've come here. Now quit ripping on me for coming here from California. The idea of spending $100 million in a state that has no money. So people that are there illegally, in other words, that's like someone coming into your house and you give them your paycheck, in addition to free room and board, is absurd. And to me, it's illegal. Speaking of illegal, the weed industry is coming after Mike Crapo. We'll tell you about that before Glenn Beck. But first, this hearing involving Matt Gaetz and John Dean. Let's take a listen. on KIDO Talk Radio.
Money off of it, right?
Not all presidents, no.
No, but a few more
Those
than one.
who do act like him, I pointed out.
Let me ask you this question. How do Democrats plan to pay for Medicare for all?
I'm sorry?
Well, I figured if we were going to ask you about stuff you don't know about, we'd start with the big stuff. So do you know how they plan to pay for Medicare for all?
Who? The Democrats or which candidate? Or can you be more specific?
Let's get specific to Nixon, since that appears to be why you're here. Do you believe...
Well, actually, Nixon did have a health care plan.
Good. Well, do you believe if we turned the lights off here and maybe lit some candles, got out a Ouija board, we could potentially raise the specter of Richard Nixon?
I doubt that.
Well, it seems to be the objective. You know, here we sit today in this hearing with the ghost of Christmas past because the chairman of the committee has gone to the Speaker of the House and sought permission to open an impeachment inquiry. But she has said no. And so instead of opening the impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump, which is what the chairman wants to do and what I presume a majority of Democrats want to do, we're here reopening the impeachment inquiry potentially into Richard Nixon, sort of playing out our own version of that 70s show. And what I really regret
it is striking, Mr. Gates.
You're here as a prop. You are functionally here as a prop because they can't impeach President Trump because 70% of Democrats want something that 60% of Americans don't. So they're in this no-win situation, and you sit before us here with no knowledge of a single fact on the Mueller report, on a hearing entitled Lessons from the Mueller Report.
Mr. Gates, can I answer your question, please?
It's not your time, Mr. Dean. It's my time. So here's the deal, right? We have a false accusation against the President of the United States that he was an agent of Russia. My colleagues on the Democratic side made that accusation. And so where do we go from here? Either we look into how the president reacted to a false allegation against him, or we look into why for 22 months, we allowed a false accusation to tear this country apart. Now, to me, it seems like a far more relevant inquiry to figure out why the FISA court was lied to, something that you have spoken a great deal about, Mr. Dean, to find out why the recordings and the transcripts from George Papadopoulos, where he asserted that he wasn't doing any work with Russia, was not brought before the FISA court. None of that. We also would love to know why the FBI turned from an organization that was supposed to be investigating crimes into one that sought to shape public opinion. You had Comey and McCabe and that whole regime of leadership lying and leaking. And the reason they were doing it is because they didn't really think that the job of the FBI was to investigate and bring cases for prosecution. They thought the role of the FBI was to try to shape public opinion. And that's really why we're here. And that's what I really think all Americans ought to have an interest in stopping. And you held these views. You wrote them down. You said that illegal surveillance was one of the worst things that we should fight against as a government. And now here we are continuing to engage in this frivolous exercise of going after the president, despite the fact that there was absolutely no collusion. You guys need to get your act together and figure out if you're going to open an impeachment inquiry or not, because this is a straight up fiction. I yield back.
Bring it on. Bring it on. There you go, John Dean. You're nothing more than a prop. And there you had Dean, cantankerous, curmudgeonly, trying to have fun with Matt Gaetz, Congressman Gaetz, who does an outstanding job. We've seen him on with Sean. We've heard him on with Lars here on KIDO Talk Radio. And he called it out. Wait a minute, John Dean. You spoke out against electronic surveillance. So let's be consistent when we're talking about the president of the United States of America. Your call's next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Sean Hannity. Let's go to Kenny in Meridian on KIDO Talk Radio. Kenny, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. Living the dream here on KIDO Talk Radio. And you?
Yeah, the same. Living the dream.
Great.
Now, I know you talked about a couple different topics. You talked about the VA or the veterans getting the same type of treatment that the illegals get. And I remember years ago, my wife and I was living in Wyoming, working on oil rigs. It slowed down. I went in to get some help. We were starving. And they said, well, we'll take all your paperwork and your information, and we'll get back with you. Well, in the next aisle over, or next cubicle, and I'm not prejudiced at all, Kevin, but, there was a Mexican gal in there, and she's telling that they were falling on hard times, and, well, they got them some emergency food stamps. And I've never been on welfare in my life, the only first, last, and only time, but I asked the gal that was helping us, hey, is there any way I can get we're starving. We're eating noodles and butter. We're out. We just ran out of noodles and butter. And she said, no, you're not a minority. And that was back in the 80s. And it resonated then. I thought, what? Wait a minute. So someone that comes from another country has more. But you're right. I agree with you 100%. They should give the veterans 100% free medical health care. They've done way more for us than any illegals. And the other thing, you played a clip on the Senate, or the hearing, and I was having a dispute with somebody on Facebook the other day, and it was a good friend, and it amazes me the hate that's out there. And I pointed out to her, I said, I don't know where you're getting your information from, if it's TV or what, why you hate Trump so bad, but it's the same dirty players that were selling Hillary as a great president candidate that are making you hate Trump. Have you ever contemplated that or thought about that at all? It's embarrassing, Kevin, what they're trying to do to the president.
Well, Kenny, what gets me is here you have you and your wife, tough times. We've all been there. And when people say that America is racist, you can just point to a couple things. America's not racist. We have affirmative action where we discriminate against the majority. No other country has that. And then we have, through compassion, through whatever you want to call it as far as the libs, here we have people that are in the country illegally getting food, getting medical, getting education, and you're just out of luck.
Out of luck. And the veterans, I emphasize, I feel that the importance of that is the crap. What they should be doing is sending the illegals to the VA care facilities and putting the veterans into the private sector that the illegals get. They're getting better. They're getting way better health care for free than the people that fought for our country, and it's pathetic. It's embarrassing. I never understood that.
And there's a vibe here that we've covered here on KIDO Talk Radio around the state of Idaho. I had a chance to talk to one school superintendent once, and great guy, and he said, well, my district, I deal with a lot of people that are fearful of getting caught. And I go, getting caught? We don't enforce our immigration laws anyway. I said to him, I go, with all due respect, that's absurd. But you can go to a school district. Now, if your kid goes, you have to prove that you live within the district. If someone comes here illegally, well, they're not allowed to ask any questions. The exorbitant cost of health care, we're picking that up for people. And the business community, led by the Chamber of Commerce, they love it because we're augmenting their health care. They don't have to pay health care. They pay the illegals illegally, and we pick up the freight.
Well, and that's what I don't understand is, they're talking about free health care for all. It's going to cost $30 trillion in 10 years, and we obviously can't afford it. But how the hell are we affording free health care for them? And why? I don't know. I feel like it's if they're going to be here and they want to get help, they need some emergency treatment or whatever. Well, they need to obviously have some kind of way of tracking them and writing them a bill. Because I tell you right now, Kevin, if you don't pay your hospital bill, they will come and they will garnish, they will get a judgment against you. No, they don't have to worry about nothing. And they go to the hospital, they go to the doctor every time a sliver.
Right.
And that's precisely why free healthcare doesn't work very well in a lot of other countries because, people become hypochondriacs and it's free. So, it's free. You might as well go and have it checked out.
Well, Kenny, it's always amazed me about the medical profession is people will say, you need to get this done. Okay. And we're all reluctant to go get ourselves taken care of. So you take that step and all of a sudden they give you, I need your copay. You need to pay this up front. And oh, by the way, it's going to be 12 weeks. I had a friend of mine who had a hernia. He had something wrong with him. He needed health. He needed a scan, and they go, that'll be 6 weeks. I'm in pain. Too bad, sir.
Right, yeah. No, years ago, it's been probably 25, 30 years, I went to the dentist, had a tooth pulled. And I was young, dumb, didn't have insurance or anything. I was self-employed. And it cost me $158 to have a tooth pulled. Well, about a year later, my wife went to work at Micron, got great insurance. And I went back and same tooth, other side, and I was excited because I had insurance. I paid 50% of my major dental. So I went in, had the tooth pulled, and I went up to pay for it. And she said, it'll be $258. And I'm like, $258? I said, no, I have insurance. She goes, yeah, that's after your insurance. I said, look, I don't want to be a part of your scam. She goes, what do you mean my scam? I said, I paid cash last year. It cost me $150.
Right.
I have insurance. You want me to pay $100 more this year with insurance? I said, lady, what would you rather pay? And she just looked at me funny, and the doctor came over and said, you know what, charge them $158. And but I've watched that. That was 25, 30 years ago, but I've watched it, and the cost of our medical isn't because the cost of Band-Aids went up and power went up. No, it's the insurance company simultaneously with the hospitals. They just kept billing them a little bit more. But, well, the insurance company, it's not their money. They just keep writing checks a little bigger before you know it. Fast forward 20, 30 years.
And here we are, Kenny. Got to run. Great call there. Good morning, Dave.